Hello, boys. Hello, girls. I can't believe that I'm even doing this. It's been so long since I've gotten to talk to you guys about anything. Because, each time I talk to you, every time I do a podcast, there's been, what's the word? There's been advancements or like I've been gaining some traction with my screen printing business. Each time I tell you, oh yeah, I'm gaining some traction, I'm getting some work here, but I'm doing extremely well with my screen printing and it wears me the fuck out, right? And a lot of times I come home and I still watch the show. I still watch all of the shows. I watch them all. But I just don't have it in me ever so often to talk about it. I listen to the podcast. Actually, my podcast listening has decreased. I probably just find myself recently just listening to the Wade Keller podcast and the Silent Monster sounds off. But I still listen to like a little bit of podcast ideas and perspectives and point of views and things of that nature. But I guess I'm in the cut until I get the itch to talk wrestling again. And I want to do at some point, like I did maybe over a year ago, sort of like a state of wrestling thing because there's been a lot of changes. A lot of things have gone on. If it's one thing wrestling isn't lacking in, is news. A lot of newsworthy things, so on and so on and so on. But ultimately, the this wrestling realm that we're in right now is not your father's wrestling realm. It's not your grandfather's wrestling realm. It's something completely new, something completely different. And the business of wrestling is something completely new and something completely different as of late. And it's fascinating stuff. It keeps me tuned in because I want to know what's going on. And the fact that I don't get to talk to you guys too often, I do apologize. So if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on Stitcher or on iTunes or whatever, maybe even Google Podcasts, if the RSS feed ends up on that, I want to say thank you so much for listening and watching. I guess it's like the glorified house show. I think this is what I called it, the glorified house show. And I'm Peter. The shirt I'm wearing is a shirt that I made. If you're watching, and it says Rusev Day, basically in Metallica font. And me and my girlfriend are the only ones that have this shirt. I still have the screen. If you are interested in getting one, if you see this, or if you're listening and go over to the video and see me in it and be like, oh yeah, I want one of those motherfuckers too. Just hit me up and I'll make sure you get one. So the reason why I'm even doing this today, because I want to knock the dust off of me talking podcast. I mean, again, I love talking to you guys. I love doing podcasts. I mean, if it was up to me, I would do one. I would do them as consistently as I did years ago when I was doing Peter and Jake Talks Wrestling or Peter Talks SmackDown and the New Day podcast. I mean, like I was coming at you at least 3 to 4 times a week, and it was so fun. But again, that was a time where I wasn't as busy. But I do want to keep doing this. I want to be a little more consistent with these, for the people who really do look forward to my point of view on things. But I think the last podcast I even did, maybe it was WrestleMania weekend, and I did a prediction, and I did like of both NXT Takeover and WrestleMania, but I don't think I ever followed up on a WrestleMania review, and I apologize because I didn't really like it too much. It wasn't really too much to talk about, honestly, and I wasn't a big fan of it. So rather than being a negative Nancy, I just decided not to do one at all. And I follow ROH, right? I try to follow as much as I can. and the New Japan product as much as I can, but more so with ROH. And having dinner, I just happened to be watching this week's, which was a go home show for Best in the World. And Best in the World, like 3 years ago, got, I think it's maybe even 4 years ago. Yeah, it was 4 years ago. Got me on board watching the Ring of Honor product, and I would even say it got me on board of watching other products other than the WWE products. And soon after that, because I think I had watched New Japan, Wrestle Kingdom 9, and then I followed up with watching some ROH stuff. But yeah, I still watch this stuff. I think it's a good product. I think it's a good enough product. I'm not a big fan of the ROH roster now, say compared to like a couple of years back. If I was to give my constructive criticism on what's happening in ROH, it's that it's lacking some real star power. And people will sit back and be like, what are you talking about? They got Cody Rhodes. They got the Young Bucks. They still have Jay Lethal. They still have the fucking, what the hell are their names? God damn. I hate that I drew a blank right there, and I do apologize. The Briscoes, and so on and so forth. And I go, yeah, but they've grown sort of stale. They've grown amazingly stale. You take a guy like Dalton Castle, who's the ROH champion. He won't relinquish the belt, and he has a back problem. And it's like, well, if you're keeping up with the world of who has the championship belts as of late, no one's really had a good reign. Like, no one has a decent enough reign where you can look back and go like, yeah, these guys are the motherfucking men. Or women. A lot of paper champions, once you think about it, and Dalton Castle, I think, is no different. He wins the title, and he hasn't been defending it. You can look at the NXT championship, where it's been overshadowed by Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano's fucking feud. You could look at AJ Styles and him and the trials of Nakamura and these nut shots, and it's like, you mean to tell me the WWE belt, world belt, is has to come to nut shots? And then you have Brock Lesnar, who just won't show up, who won't show up to the WWE. It's very, and the only person who has really an awesome reign as of late is Okada, and he just lost the belt. So, I just wish that Dalton Castle would be healthy enough to defend the title, to be at least one of the only titles, world titles, in the world of wrestling today, the larger promotions, that isn't kind of lame duckish. But the rest of the roster, I just think has grown stale. You're trying to find stars, with Bully Ray and the feuds that he's trying to pick up, first with Cheeseburger, now with Flip Gordon. You look at Martinez, Punishment Martinez, where I think the jury's not out on him yet. You look at a guy like, I don't know, you look at Cody Rhodes, and I don't know. I have my feelings about the idea of Cody Rhodes. Now, I'm a Cody Rhodes fan, but I do have how I feel about him just sort of muscling his way into becoming this indie darling via the Bullet Club. I mean, I don't have to go into it too much, but I just go, I'm not ultimately sold. You look at the past Bullet Club, quote unquote, leaders, AJ Styles, Finn Balor, who was once Prince Devitt, and even Kenny Omega, right? And now it's Cody Rhodes, and it just doesn't. I personally think it doesn't add up, and plus the storyline has changed, where you had a bunch of delinquents, a bunch of badasses who were very cutthroat, who were very vicious, and they were foreigners that had somehow ended up on Japan soil and just basically ran rumshot on the entire division. Now the storyline is like it's about friendship, and you got this guy who comes from a corporate background, and now he's like this sort of kind of weasel, and he's somehow what's the word I want to use? He's somehow interjecting himself amongst these friends, and these friends are now coming to grips with how they want to have their faction. It's really weird, right? I mean, we're far beyond the days of, again, Prince Devitt and AJ Styles, and now this. So it's all kind of weird. It's all really weird. And if I was to look at the ROH roster and look at what it is represent, because they've been gutted out a lot by the WWE, and unlike New Japan has good enough booking to where they fill in the cracks with guys who are willing to step up and carry the load. Because if there was ever a promotion that had been really hit hard by the WWE and them gutting out their best talents, it's been New Japan. And props to Gedo for having the wherewithal and the presence of mind to keep that promotion relevant and keep stars pumping when people decide to work for Vince McMahon. And I don't think ROH has that same, they don't have that same vigor, I guess, as, say, Gedo. Whatever general manager is at ROH just doesn't have that same, don't have that same thing to be able to keep the ROH brand the way it is. So if you look back, just say 3 years ago at the Best in the World, and you look at this lineup now, you will see a drastic difference in the star power. And the stars that they were pushing, say Jay Lethal, they have shot down the card drastically. Where you had, Jay Lethal and like that fucking faction that he was in, and they were just the shit. Everyone was just kicking ass and taking names. The fucking Briscoes were killing it. There was a couple of other acts that you just go, wow, like these guys are, Adam Cole, and you had a lot of guys, man. Cedric Alexander, that were just really good. I mean, you couldn't wait to see the next ROH show. And I guess a wrestling purist right now would be really into the ROH brand right now, just because it's not the WWE. But let's just say I started watching ROH today. I don't think I would be into it as much. I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, like look at this wrestling. And I would sit back and go like, well, where are the stars? Where are the stars at? Who are the people I should be getting excited about? Because I can't find them. But nevertheless, I hope they can get some new fans. Maybe, I don't know. I don't mean to be talking in circles, but I think the issue that I have with this promotion now is that I think it lacks stars. I think it has a ton of talent, but it lacks stars. And, piggybacking off of New Japan and bringing in those guys and bringing in the Bullet Club, I just don't see that as ROH. Let's just say the Bullet Club didn't exist, right? And you didn't have the star power or the appeal of a Cody Rhodes or a Young Bucks. Just those alone, those three guys alone. And what are you left with? The only person I feel that can carry the torch would be Jay Lethal. But then that's it. That's it. Dalton Castle maybe, but he's injured. I'm kind of ruling him out because he hasn't been wrestling recently. So Jay Lethal, that's it. That's all they got. And I hope at some point they can develop some more stars, whatever they got in the, at the dojo, whoever they're bringing up, I hope they can grease these guys up and get them in soon and make new stars in that place. Because if they keep this up, and this is just my opinion, if they keep this up, I don't see them prospering too well. And you look at this whole all-in thing, they're bringing in a bunch of people. This is not, it's not an ROH event. It's basically a Young Buck Cody Rhodes event. But they're basically using the ROH Shield and New Japan Shield. But for this all-in show, they're going to go outside of that. They're going to go to different realms of the wrestling universe to bring people in. And I think that's pretty sad to be able to use, the ROH guys. They're not going to be using a lot of those ROH guys because of what I've just been talking about for the past 10 minutes. And I think that's a problem. That's problematic. And I hope in the next year or two that they can get those guys, right? I have hope for Punishment Martinez. I have hope for him. He looks like he could be a guy. He looks like he could be one of the next guys in and out of the title picture, And I think for the most part, that's it. I hope Adam Page can break away from the Bullet Club at some point and be a real ROH guy and become a big star, because he's over right now, but he still feels like the bottom of the Bullet Club totem pole, I hope they revamp Jay Lethal, right? I hope they revamp somehow the Briscoes. If not, bring in another tag team that can take them, you can move on from the Briscoes. Because I'm not sure how long the Briscoes is going to be in ROH. There's been rumblings that the WWE is interested in them, but they need another tag team in there, right? I don't have a lot of hope for what the hell are they called? The Kingdom. I don't have a lot of hope for them. Those guys are kind of dweebs to me. But yeah. But that's my little thing on how I feel about the ROH product. I still support it. I wish them nothing but the best. But again, I don't think what they have right now is pretty sustainable for the next 2-3 years. It's just not. And with that said, I'm going to talk to you about their upcoming pay-per-view called The Best in the World. It's going to be in the UMBC Event Center in Catonsville. I can't even say it. I'm an idiot. Maryland. And it will feature both ROH and New Japan wrestlers. And we will go down the matches from bottom to the top. I'm going to read them, and then I'm going to talk to you my understanding of these matches, and I'm going to give you who I think is going to win, and go from there. So the card for this Best in the World 2018 is Kenny King versus Austin Aries, Punishment Martinez. Why am I Martinez? I keep saying Martinez, like Martini. Sorry about that. Martinez versus Adam Page. You got Jay Lethal versus Kushida. We have an 8-woman tag team match featuring Sumi Sakai, who is the ROH Women's Champ, Jenny Rose, Mayu Iwatani, Tenille Dashwood, which is Emma from WWE, Kelly Klein versus Kelly Klein, and Odu Tai. What the hell? Hazuki. You got Kage Tetsu and Hana Kimura. I just butchered their names, but you get the drift. You got the Kingdom, which is Matt Taven, TK Orion, and Vinny Marsigila. And then you have Los Angeles blah. Hey, yo, by the way, do not hold these pronunciations against me, man. By all means. You know, what's great about the WWE is they got, like, simple fucking names, man. And that's great. When I could just say Roman Reigns and fucking and AJ Styles and shit. Nakamura is probably as hard as it gets when it comes to pronouncing the names. But Jesus Christ, I've never been able to pronounce this Ingobernabilis. I've never been able to pronounce that fucking name. The Japan with Bushi, Evil, and Sonata. And this is for the ROH 6-man tag team championship. We have the Briscoes versus the Young Bucks for the ROH World Tag Team Championship. And then you have Dalton Castle versus Cody versus Marty Scurll, which is a triple threat for the ROH Championship. So a lot of championships on the line. I think it's a shame that the women and Sumi Sakai is not defending her championship on this. They're doing the WWE thing by just tossing a bunch of women in a match, maybe a bathroom break. It's not fair. But I digress. So let's start at the bottom, and I give you somewhat my understanding of these matches, and then I'll give you my prediction. So we got Kenny King and Austin Aries, right? And Austin Aries right now is a guy who's basically going to different promotions and collecting belts. That's what he's been doing since he's left the WWE. He's been a belt collector. And he went up against, just recently, I think he went up against the last real man. What the fuck is his name? It's going to hit me in a minute, but he went up against him to get his television title. And Silas Young, that's his name, Silas Young. And he had Kenny King in his corner. And he ended up losing. And rather than, giving the crowd just a sort of thank you and a goodbye along with Kenny King, he decides to kick Kenny King's ass. And Kenny King is a guy who's been pretty flailing as of late. I'm not sure why. I mean, he's a really talented guy. I don't know the overall consensus of how the wrestling world feels about him. I don't know how the ROH fans feel about him. I don't know how the office feels about him. For some reason, I just feel like he's in ROH until he gets the nod to go to WWE. And I wouldn't get, I wouldn't put that by him for the fact that he's kind of in this purgatory until he gets the nod. He did this dating thing, not to this dating show. You know those dating shows where you know he's one of 9 dudes and a girl had to pick him, whatever. But he was running off that for a while, and it seems like he wants to be more than an indie wrestler. And I think he wants to be bigger. I think he wants money, more money. Who doesn't? But I just don't feel the passion of his ROH run ever since he's come back, unifying the what do they call the All Night Express, and then that became something else, and then just I don't know. It's just I wish this guy was in a better situation, but it's on him to rectify that, right? I guess they put the television championship on him for a little bit, and I don't think it was working. I don't think it was getting over. So I guess he's just buying his time. He's still relevant enough on the on that brand, that promotion, to where he can actually get a spot on the pay-per-view, let alone against Austin Aries, a very popular independent wrestler. But I see Austin Aries winning this, and only because he didn't win a belt. So it's like a trade-off to where it's like, well, you can't give me the belt, at least give me the head of Kenny King. And I think Kenny King is in a situation where he's not desperate for a win, right? He's not desperate for a win at all. He's not, and he's, I mean, I don't know what momentum, because he's not in the title picture, so why would he lose? I mean, why would he win? I think the momentum of Austin Aries and him collecting the belts, it'd be a shame to lose to a guy who basically is floundering, right? So that's all I really have to say about that. You got Punishment Martinez versus, I did it again, versus Adam Page. And this is a Baltimore street fight for the ROH World Championship, World Television Championship. Is Punishment Martinez the World Television Champ? Let's make sure, because I didn't know that. He defeated, yes, I guess he did. Martinez won his first championship in ROH just recently. He beat Silas Young. And I was wondering why Silas Young wasn't even on this card. So yes, I guess he's the television championship champion, and he's putting it up against Adam Page in a Baltimore street fight. Adam Page, the guy is, he's working extremely hard. And like I said earlier in the in this podcast, you look at the totem pole of this Bullet Club, and you have Cody, the Young Bucks, Marty Scurll, who is, I mean, his popularity is almost, he's more popular to me than Cody Rhodes. So I look at the Young Bucks with Marty Scurll, then Cody Rhodes, and then Adam Page is like at the bottom in terms of how I see them placed. And that guy is such a workhorse. He's a workhorse. I think he cares about what people think. I think he cares about wrestling, and I think he's in a situation where I think he kind of has no other choice but to go along with his positioning in the Bullet Club, but use that as a way to really showcase what he really can do, right? Now, again, I never followed him when he was on TNA because I don't watch TNA. But I think at some point he won the championship, and I think he lost it really soon. And then it was just like, well, who is Adam Page? And I think since coming over, he's definitely made a name for himself. as a hard worker. You know, he's a high motor guy, and I think the jury's still out on how actually good of a wrestler he is, and how much the people will get behind him as a star and a wrestler. But he has this high motor thing going, and just right, the best of him riding that shit out. I just hope at some point he can become a wrestling star. That people will look past his work ethic and his high motor and the crazy shit that he does, and just look at him as a legitimate badass. And the only thing that makes me vote against him in this match is because he's a Bullet Club guy, and because he's Bullet Club, he's a New Japan guy, right? And there's already enough fanfare in the Bullet Club to where they could sacrifice him and a loss, especially to Punishment Martinez, who just got this belt, and I think they're going to try to make him into a star. I mean, Adam Page will probably show his ass, and he'll probably have Martinez against the ropes, but Martinez has to come out with the victory, and that's my prediction there. And Martinez, he has something. I'm not saying he has it, but he has something. There's something with him. I think the only thing that's really lacking is personality. He has this ominous sort of Undertaker thing going on. And it's all well and good, but we already have an Undertaker. He's a big guy who does a bunch of flips, and he does a lot of acrobatics, and who personally fits my kind of wrestler. Because if you go over my favorite wrestlers again, who are Goldust, Booker T, and Diamond Dallas Page, are big guys that can keep up with the smaller guys. He fits the mold. But the difference between Goldust, DDP, and Booker T compared to Martinez is what I said a moment ago. He lacks personality. We don't know who he is. I don't know who he is. I don't know what what riles him up. I don't know what makes him sad. I don't know what cheers him up. I don't know what I don't know anything. I don't know his goals. Nothing. He's just this big dude. He could put on some muscle too. He's really slender, but that's okay. That's beyond the point. He's a big guy. But who is he? What is he? What does he want to accomplish in ROH? Obviously, he wants to be the world champion, but he doesn't have a mission statement whatsoever. So until they figure that out and give him a path and maybe a formidable opponent, maybe a good rivalry that he can always check back to or sort of compare to or whatever, I think they still have a long way to go with him to make him into a star. Just hope he doesn't get plucked by Orlando anytime soon. You have Jay Lethal versus Kushida. Kushida is a guy, I feel like Kishida has almost become like the Adam Page of the Japanese wrestlers from New Japan. He's this guy, he has this thing, right? He has this gimmick, he has this thing, because at one point they were really pushing this guy. And then something happened. And I don't know, because again, I follow the New Japan product as much as I can, but not as much as I feel like I should to be, really making any kind of opinions that it's really worth a damn. But I know at some point this guy was getting a push. And maybe it's the cyclical thing or what have you, but right now he's not really viewed as a top star. And I'm concerned about that because I think he's fantastic. You look at the totem pole of the New Japan product, and he's very low on that pole. He's very low. I mean, for a guy who they actually gave the ball to at some point, you would think, not say Okada, but at least he'd be thought higher than Ishii or Goto. He's not. He's down there. And I don't think it's because he's a small guy either. I just think that at some point, New Japan, I don't know, maybe I'm jumping the gun. I'm not trying to, but I feel like they lost faith in him, right? And they sent him back to America. They sent him back to ROH to sort of get his bearings or something. But it's just weird. And I don't know much of the story between him and Jay Lethal other than the fact that Jay Lethal right now is on a quest to get back to the title picture, and he wants to basically beat all the guys that he's lost to since he's lost the championship. So he's kind of on this quest to avenge all of these losses and to get back into the title picture. I mean, because let's face it, at one point, ROH was Ring of Jay Lethal, and he was the championship. They gave him both the television championship, they gave him the fucking ROH heavyweight championship. They would have gave him the fucking tag team championships if they could. They would have actually fucking made up a belt to give him. They would have gave him the Jay Lethal championship. They would have gave it to him because at one point they were just, the rocket ship was on that motherfucker's back and he was just killing it, right? And they won it so bad, but there was a backlash from the fans, from the podcasters, from the pundits and the talking heads, that Jay Lethal, it was too much Jay Lethal, that he was basically becoming a John Cena, that he was basically becoming a Roman Reigns. And I think maybe, just maybe, he decided to go, you know what? I'm going to take a step back because I don't want to be represented as this top guy all the time. And maybe the company was like, hey, Jay Lethal, we need to ease up off the brakes. We like you a little too much. We don't need you to get Roman Reigns heat. We don't need you to get John Cena heat. We are not in the business of polarizing characters. We want stars that people cheer and we need stars that people boo. And then, everyone's fucking cool. But for the most part, they're not in the polarizing, let's go lethal, lethal sucks. They're not, ROH is not in that business. So maybe it's for the best to cool him off, only to heat him back up again. But he's been cooled off for quite some time. And I think when he was in that feud with Silas Young and them calling him the golden boy and stuff like that, I think they're past this. I think they're really past that, and now it's time to heat him up again. And I think maybe, we'll get to the main event, but they're heating him up for somebody. They're heating him for somebody to get that championship back. And who's to say it doesn't happen during WrestleMania weekend? We'll see. But if I was to pick a winner between these two, obviously it's going to be Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal has to win this because this is the path they're going in. Kishida is going to be a fucking... It may steal the show. If I'm looking at all of this right here, all these matches, if I was to pick a match that was going to steal the show, it's going to be this one. It's going to be brutal. They're going to beat the shit out of each other. You better believe that. But I think Jay Lethal is going to come out, and Kishida will just lick his wounds. And he's still a likable person. It's not like, oh yeah, and he lost to Jay Lethal. He already has a win over Jay Lethal, so it's not like, oh, poor Kishida. I think he'll be just fine. Okay, so we got this 8-woman tag match Unless they're trying to push a storyline that somebody is going to, in fact, be a contender for Sumi Sakai for that belt, I don't know what this 8-women tag is for. I mean, you're looking at all these women, names that you can pronounce and names you can't pronounce. But the only one that stands out is either Tennille Dashwood or Kelly Klein. And to me, Kelly Klein, I think, is the best women's heel in all of women's wrestling right now. No one comes close to how good of a fucking heel, a women's heel, that Kelly Klein is. Nothing comes close to how good she is, okay? Nothing. She has everything going for her to be the most despicable. No one's cheering for her for how cool she is. She's not asking for cool points. She's a vicious, fucking, filthy, trash, nothing. Just give me the win, best way. Because there was one time that she had an undefeated streak, and that's where she got her heat, man. I don't know. I like her as a heel. I think the only other person I think could even hold a candle to how good of a heel she is, and I'm not even gonna say like who's the NXT Women's Champ, whatever the fuck her name is. I think Lacey Evans is a better heel. She has the look. I can't wait till she gets to the main roster because she's gonna be the end-all be-all women's heel, like without a shot of a doubt. She's rough around the edges. She has this sort of rugged look. She doesn't look glam at all. She poses as a glam girl, but like she's not at all. She will be the #1 women's heel on the main roster in WWE. And I think, honestly, if Kelly Klein was to jump ship and go to NXT and then make it to the main roster somehow, actually, I wouldn't even put Kelly Klein at NXT. I would send her to the main roster right now. And she will be the centerpiece of all that is heels in the women's division. Hands down. So, if you're looking at this, maybe they're setting up something where Tennille Dashwood becomes, turns and goes after Sumi Sakai. Or maybe Kelly Klein really does a number on Sumi Sakai to make it to where she's like, fuck you, I'm the #1 contender. But if that doesn't happen, this is nothing more than a bathroom break. Nothing more. So if I was to make a wild guess, I'm going to say that the heels are going to win this with Kelly Klein, right? Kelly's going to get the pin. And you know what? She's going to get the pin on Sumi Sakai, right? And then there's going to be tension within the women's division that Tennille Dashwood deserves. She's going to be pissed off at Sumi Sakai for throwing the match and that she deserves a shot at the title. Or Kelly Klein saying, I pinned you, I deserve a shot at the title. So if that doesn't develop, then this is nothing more than a bathroom break. We have the Kingdom versus Los Ingobernables de Japan, which is Bushi, Evil, and Sonata, who are all three pretty good badasses. Like, those guys fuck around and they can be the next stars. They're super young. They could be the next New Japan stars, fighting for the heavyweight championship, maybe moving forward. But we'll see over time. But that little stable is pretty popular, especially with Tetsuya Naito at the helm. Man, that guy. But these guys are pretty badass. And I like Bushi, I like Sonata, I like Evil. If you don't know who Evil is, he used to be Watanabe. He was a guy who New Japan sent over to ROH in his excursion, and he came back to New Japan and became basically Evil. Kevin Sullivan type character. And the Kingdom, dude, you know what, man? Whew. Okay, So, I just don't take these guys seriously. It's just something about these guys I just cannot take seriously. I'm not a big fan of their fucking gimmicks. I'm not a big fan of their shtick now is the conspiracy theory. Like, I'm just not buying into any of this shit. Right? So I don't have much to say about the Kingdom. Okay? I see LIJ. How about that? Because I think that's what they call him. I see LIJ pulling off the victory, retaining the titles, because we already have two New Japan guys going down in flames, and Adam Page and Kishida. I mean, you just can't job out the entire New Japan fucking roster to these ROH guys. And if there was ever a group that needed the win, I'm going to say that LIJ are those guys that need the win. Keep those guys strong. The Kingdom, whatever, move them on to something else. Maybe even break them up, because I just cannot deal with this version of the Kingdom. The one prior with Michael Bennett and Kanellis, and there was one other dude. I liked that one. I really did like that. But this Matt Taven version is just doesn't do it for me. So yeah, LIJ pulls this off. Flip Gordon versus Bully Ray. And if you've been keeping up, Bully Ray has been, I guess he's been given the title of enforcer of ROH. And since he's been given that title, he's been a complete asshole. Because he's coming off a storyline which resulted in a heel turn for the Briscoes, right? And he was doing this whole concussion thing. And I think out of the sympathy, I don't know, man, whatever. Again, for what I was catching up on, they gave him this position as enforcer, right? I mean, soon after that whole storyline and him coming back to wrestle when you thought his career was over because of constant concussions and shit like that. Again, resulting in a heel turn from the Briscoes. He got inducted to the Hall of Fame in WWE, and he became a real huge asshole. Not a bully per se, but an asshole. Because he's not only picking on little guys, because his last feud was with Hamburger, now with Flip Gordon, but he's also like showing off his like WWE like Hall of Fame ring and calling it by name in the middle of an ROH ring in front of the world to see. You know, there's no separation between the brands. You know, it's like that day where in Coke and Pepsi, you remember when Coke and Pepsi back in the 80s, they would always compete, but they would never say each other's names and shit, you know? And then one day, I think Coke was like, fuck Pepsi. And it was like, oh, the floodgates have opened. Same here. They're like, nah, just run with, you know, the fact that the WWE exists. And I'm in the Hall of Fame. And we're just going to make you even more so a heel because of it. So Bully Ray, what he's been doing is going after guys who he feels aren't fit to be wrestlers. And just, you know, you aren't fit because you do this, you're part of this new generation who has no respect. All y'all do is like flip and this and that. And Cheeseburger was his first target because he was like, look at you. You're this little dude. People make a big deal out of you. Fuck you, I'm gonna beat your ass. And that's what he did. He killed him. He killed him dead. And now he's moved on to Flip. And Flip is your quintessential indie wrestler as of late. He's sucking up on the Bullet Club as of late. Like he's trying to like latch on to them because he was getting his ass whooped. And I think it turned into him trying to get a group of people to stop him. But then it turned into if you can't beat him, join him kind of situation. So he's trying his best to join. So I don't even say he's like an honor. Yeah, he's kind of an honorary Bullet Club guy because he's been showing up in the Elite episodes, and they've sort of partnered him up with Marty Scurll, right? So he is the quintessential indie wrestler who flips, dives, all this shit. And I think he's the second on the list of Bully Ray and these, I guess, what you would call indie wrestling tropes that he feels aren't worthy to be in a wrestling ring. And I think, I mean, I'll be honest, I like this Bully Ray thing. I don't know if a loss will put a stunt in that growth of him and maybe going towards being a contender for the belt. I don't know if they even want him even going towards the belt. I mean, it'd be like going backwards. You have all this young talent, guys who aren't stars yet. But if what I was speaking on earlier, if trying to develop a star isn't moving fast enough, I say why not put him in title contention? Why not hand him a bunch of guys to basically devour and get in that title picture amongst Jay Lethal and Cody Rhodes and and Dalton Castle. Just put them up there. God knows they need stars at the top, even the old ones. So I say Bully Ray goes over on this. I see Flip Gordon putting up a good fight, but he just don't have enough fight to take out a guy like Bully Ray. And Bully Ray obviously going to do some dirty tactics. He's going to take him out, but it's going to be, some Dick Murdoch shit. Like, yeah, I'm going to, what's the word? Meat and potato you up, and I'm going to get this victory. Because he killed, he killed dead Cheeseburger. He's not going to be able to do that to Flip. But I think Flip is going to wear out at some point, and maybe Bully is going to get the best of him, kind of underhandedly, but not underhanded where it's like he's cheating, but he's going to get him to where it's just like a veteran move. So I see Bully Ray going over on this. The Briscoes versus the Young Bucks for the ROH World Tag Team Championships. The Briscoes are a bunch of mean motherfuckers as of late. And it came over from their heel turn on Bully Ray. And, they've just been a thorn in the side of the Young Bucks. They beat them for those ROH championships underhandedly, but nevertheless, they won them. And the Young Bucks, I think the thing about the Young Bucks is the fact that I think they're bigger. I don't say bigger, but they're more than wrestling guys as of late. I mean they are true to life personalities that wrestle. They're out of control. When they get to wrestling, but like the Young Bucks are larger than the Young Bucks as wrestlers. They represent something. They are figureheads in the world of not say indie wrestling, but not WWE wrestling, right? And they just recently won the New Japan Heavyweight. They've always been the junior heavyweight tag teams champions, but they just became the New Japan Heavyweight Tag Team champions. They're running on their first New Japan heavyweight championship reign, and good for them. I think, if you got some stock, put it all on the Young Bucks because they're the hottest ticket in the land. They are. I'm not a big fan of them. I think, one of the major reasons why I'm not a big fan of, say, them, is not because I'm biased. It's just my personal wrestling taste. I like, even though I like my flash, but I want my matches to look like fights a little bit. And I think they refuse to go that route. And it's working for them. It's working for them. Not everyone can be, just sort of the fucking, what do they call, the revival. Not everyone can be Jordan and Gable, Some people have to be, fly, flip, dive, make the acrobat fan happy, and they feel that role, so that's what's up. If I was to look at this and I was to say, hey, who wins this? I think out of all the matches on here, because you have to have one that's kind of, that doesn't finish, that doesn't have a finish, a DQ. I don't see the Briscoes losing at tag team championships, but I do see them losing in a DQ fashion, because it's like, what's the use of giving the Young Bucks the belts when they already have heavyweight championship belts, unless you want to just give them all the fucking belts? And I think that's stupid. You want to keep your ROH belt in ROH. The tag team, the heavyweight championships, the television championships, you want to keep those in ROH. And as much as they perform in ROH, the Young Bucks and the Bullet Club are New Japan guys. Now, going over this list, I got 2 New Japan losses, and I have 1 New Japan win in LIJ. And I'm torn with this, and I just don't see, it's not in the best interest of any of those promotions to have any of those guys lose via pin. But I think if you're going to muddy it up and have Jay Briscoe or throw a chair at somebody, not be seen, but then you're thinking it's going to happen again, and then you think the Young Bucks going to pull it off, they just do something else dastardly that the ref sees and call for the DQ, and they keep their tag team championships. And maybe they try again later on. Maybe we get another rematch for those belts over, the I don't know, like, I think the Young Bucks have to reign as the heavyweight tag team championships, right? Champions. And then just sort of write them off, let them do their thing for All In and get that New Japan on, and then just put them on the shelf and have other tag teams come after the Briscoes. Meanwhile, they're just gearing up for WrestleMania weekend. And whatever show they have lined up, and to finally just give the Young Bucks the belts then and have them both, until they lose them somehow. But for the most part, you want to build up these guys as formidable baby faces to finally take out the Young Bucks, because I'm looking at the tag team division. You talk about a horrible, horrible tag team division. If one even exists in ROH, there isn't one. There really isn't one. And they have these 3-way tag. It's pretty pathetic. So I don't even know who will even go after the ROH championships once the Briscoes retain. And that's the fault of ROH. They should have been building teams. Not, I just feel like it's going to be a bunch of makeshift teams now going after these belts. And that's, it's a shame. I think the Briscoes deserve better. I think they deserve way better than that. And again, there's been rumblings that they may go to Orlando. And that is the land of tag team division. The land of tag teams. It's so amazing what they got going on down there in ROH. It really is. No, sorry, in NXT. It's pretty amazing. And it's about time. It's about time. And honestly, I wouldn't put the Briscoes in NXT. I'll bring them to Raw. And not even to SmackDown, because everyone's like, yeah, take them to SmackDown because that's the wrestling. No. I think they have enough charisma to just go straight to Raw as baby faces. Now, Who's to say they're going to make these guys into the next bushwhackers? But nevertheless, you're not going to be able to print enough money for these motherfuckers if they ever go. And they can flagship that tag team division. Hopefully, if, the Revival is still around or if American Alpha is still kicking, Because I would love to see the Briscoes even against, the New Day, if they're still a thing. I like to see them up against the Usos, if that's still a thing. But, like, ROH, they're on an island. And it's sad. I feel bad for the guys. The title match, I guess the main event is Dalton Castle. If you're listening still, I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. You fucking up names and bouncing all over the place, but I'm thinking that I'm somewhat concise. I'm an hour in, and again, I just want to thank you if you got this far. I'm going to get through this, really quickly, and then I'll call it a podcast. But Dalton Castle versus Cody versus Marty Scurll. Triple threat for the ROH World Championship. Dalton Castle, again, has been on the shelf because of his back. He's been a lame duck champion, and there's not much to say about him because he hasn't done anything. Cody is just on a quest to get his belt back because he's just there and he's Cody, and I guess he feels entitled, in the bookings to being a top contender. Marty Scurll, on the other hand, is a crowd favorite. I think probably, I will say, in terms of popularity, like just hardcore fan popularity, I think Marty Scurll is probably the most hardcore popular wrestler. You mean, because you could talk about your AJ Styles, you could talk about your Okadas and all that shit, but if you had to pick one person, you put them all in a lineup, and you take your average indie wrestling fan, they're like, who you got? They're pointing to Marty Scurll. They love that little motherfucker. Whoop, whoop. They love that little motherfucker. They love that little motherfucker. You don't say anything bad about him. You only say things good about him. He's an entertainer. He's a technical wrestler. He has a lot going for him. And I don't know when, because he's still considered like a junior heavyweight, right? He's still considered like a 205. Like if he was on WWE main roster, he'd be a 205 live guy, hands down. But in this realm of wrestling, he has the opportunity to go up against heavyweights, quote unquote heavyweights, and be a title contender. So I think he's in this match, if I can remember correctly, I think because he pinned Dalton Castle and like a tag team thing. I don't know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong. But he's in it because it would have been one-on-one, but he's like, fuck that. I need to be in this match as much as anybody, regardless of who and where I am with the Bullet Club. And good for fucking him for feeling this way, right? And he's not in this like, oh yeah, wink, wink, I'm going to make sure that you win, Cody. He's like, no, we're Bullet Club homies, but when it comes to that championship, ain't no homies. Ain't none. No homie, no homie. No, no homie. And it's sad because he should win this championship. He should. I think he should. Now it goes to what is the health of Dalton Castle? Like, what is ultimately the health of Dalton Castle? And I think the finish will play into that. And which is it's hard to say. But if I was to make an educated guess, I see Marty Scurll winning this. Unless, you know what? I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to Marty Scurll. I'm not going to play whatever. Because I think Dalton Castle ultimately it's not 100%. Back injuries aren't just something you put icy hot on. You don't put tussin on a back injury. Back injury change people's careers. I mean, you can be the best ever. You open that back up and realign some stuff, you'll never be the same. So I only hope for the best for Dalton Castle and his health. But if he wins, it means that he's good to go. But again, it's a back injury, not an ACL tear or like, a broken bone or sprain. This is back shit. So I don't see him coming out with a victory and retaining. And he's going to finally go on the shelf and he's going to recover. Just take a year off and just make sure your back is okay. There's a storyline right now with Cody and still going on between him and Kenny Omega, and who is the real leader of the Bullet Club. If you've been keeping up, Kenny Omega just won the New Japan, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. He beat Kushida. He finally ended the longest reign in New Japan history of heavyweight championships, and which continues to struggle. The Young Bucks have kind of come back to Omega, and along with Kota Ibushi, they go by the Golden Elite because you have the Golden Lovers and you have the Elite. So they're now the Golden Elite. And, you still want to question the loyalty to the Bucks, from the Bucks to Cody. And you have this guy who basically kind of been kicked out of Bullet Club by Cody as the leader. And now he's the heavyweight champion. Cody's last resort right now is to win that ROH championship, to have at least some say as to continued quote unquote leader of the Bullet Club. I think Marty Scurll can get in the way of that. I think Marty Scurll can have a short reign, right? But he can get in the storyline. He can put a monkey wrench in that storyline of who deservedly needs to be the leader of Bullet Club. I don't think Marty Scurll is trying to be the leader of Bullet Club. I think he just wants to be world champ. And if he wins or when he wins, he doesn't necessarily move up in the ranks, but Cody moved down in the ranks, if you see what I'm saying. And that can further the storyline of what's happening in New Japan. Now, should ROH give a flying fuck about what New Japan storylines are and when there's the Bullet Club? I feel that they shouldn't. But the fact that New Japan and the Bullet Club is actually having their storyline in ROH to give some star power to that brand, that's cool. So you want to accommodate these guys the best way possible. So if they are going to move this, let's just hope that Kenny Omega is in the building when Marty Scurll is lifted up as the new ROH champion. Let's just hope. And then definitely drive a wedge even more so in the placement of Cody and what they're going to do with that. You got All In coming up, and who's to say what happens in that storyline? But maybe the main event, somehow, if not one of the three main events, is, a triple threat between Scurll, Cody, and Omega. Who's to say? It makes a lot of sense to me to have something, a big blow off like that, at a show like All In, say taking those combustible pieces, and continuing the storyline. So that's my prediction. I see Marty Scurll, and I think the storyline ends up, well, what is Cody? What are you, Cody? We got Omega over here, he's champ. We got this guy, Scurll, he's champ. What are you? You're claiming to be the leader. Where's your belt? You got the Young Bucks with the championships. Where's your belt, Cody? Where's your belt? You got a ring, but where's your belt? And that concludes my preview and predictions to ROH. I'm tired. ROH Best in the World this Friday. I hope to catch it. I really, really hope to catch it. And we'll give you a review. Because I'm knocking out the dust. I'm knocking out the cobwebs of this because we got Extreme Rules coming up. And I may do a review and prediction show for that as well, leading into SummerSlam. And this will, I think, make the 4th year that I've been doing podcasts. Again, it's been so much looser, but I got to do a SummerSlam preview, prediction, and review. Got to. That's just part of the program of me talking wrestling. It's my beginning, so I have to stay up on that. But I had to get the rust off with this podcast. Again, if I was to do one more time my predictions, we got Austin Aries over Kenny Omega. We got Punishment Martinez over Adam Page. We got Jay Lethal over Kishida. We got Kelly Klein and the Hill Women winning the that 8-woman tag match. We got L.I.J. Beating the Kingdom. We got the Briscoes retaining, and we have Marty Scurll as your new ROH champion. World Heavyweight Champion of the world. All right. So thanks again for if you're gotten this far. Thanks again. I really appreciate the ear. If you have your own prediction, just you want to start a conversation, be sure to hit me up on Twitter. It's just Ellen Japanese, LINJAPANESE. You can leave a comment below in any of those YouTube, SoundCloud, wherever you can leave a fucking comment. iTunes, wherever you can leave a comment. Just leave a comment. Say how you feel, what you think about this. And then I'll be sure to respond. Until then, thank you again. If you want a Rusev Day Metallica shirt, just hit me up in the DM somehow. And watch out for the foreign objects. I'll see you hopefully for Extreme Rules preview and prediction show. Peace.